AEW continues to do big things on a daily basis. My name is Ango. This is Destination Pro Wrestling. This, of course, is the destination for all types of pro wrestling content. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about AEW, Impact Wrestling, and NXT. So I highly suggest you guys stick around and watch this video in its entirety because all three of these companies have some major plans. It's really going to be about who does it the best, and that's why I'm excited about this. So we're going to actually start things off with a good story about Impact Wrestling. If you guys don't know, Impact Wrestling has been doing a pretty good job on a consistent basis of television programming. The problem is Impact Wrestling typically does not have the production level of, let's say, WWE or AEW. That's always been one of the biggest issues. I always go back to the days of like 2014 Impact Wrestling. Yes, it wasn't the best creative, but it was higher quality. It did have a very high level production, atmospheric environment, whatever you want to say. It just appealed a lot better, especially for somebody who watches WWE. Now, that was in 2014. It is 2021, and I love Impact Wrestling, but their quality is not good. Now, that's a big problem when you consider how great Impact Wrestling has been doing on a week-to-week basis. Now, we officially got news this past weekend during Impact's little iPay-per-view thing, Victory Road. We know that Josh Alexander is going to be cashing in Option C, meaning he is going to basically give up the X Division Championship to go and compete against Christian Cage in the main event for Bound for Glory. Now, a lot of times people actually forget that Christian Cage is an actual AEW wrestler. He is not signed with Impact. He is going to have to drop the belt. Josh Alexander is arguably one of the best people in Impact Wrestling. And I've also called for Josh Alexander to pretty much go to New Japan and ROH and Impact. Like, I want this guy to be a traveling champion so bad just because of how good he is. So the reason why I'm actually talking about this is because Impact has some very big plans for Josh Alexander. And I don't want to say this is a spoiler because it's not actually been determined, but the writing is on the wall. Josh Alexander is more than likely going to be the next world champion for Impact. And now Impact has a lot of things in place. We know there's some former WWE guys going there. There's a lot of big names and news that is surrounding Impact. And then plus the Forbidden Door has been open with New Japan and AEW. So just keep in mind, if you're not watching Impact, now would be the best time to do so. So definitely let me know what you guys think. I'm very curious. Ultimately, I know I am excited about it. So yeah. All right, guys, we got to talk a little bit about NXT. I know some of you just don't like NXT, and I get it, especially NXT 2.0 for a lot of you. You're just not into the idea of a developmental brand. We now know that it is officially a developmental brand. It is not the third brand. It's not a C show. It's not a SmackDown or Raw, which is a great thing in my opinion. I think the more you guys tend to watch the show, you guys will actually enjoy it because so many people, including myself, truly believe when NXT was a developmental brand, it was the best. Now, with that being said, as WWE changes its focus, we also have to acknowledge that surely at this point, right now, it is safe to say a lot of the names that you became familiar with in NXT, specifically that came from an indie wrestling background, more than likely will not be in NXT going forward. So it sounds like WWE has plans to do a couple different things. As they fully transition this into a true developmental brand, some of the veterans that we're so used to seeing is expected to go to the main roster or be released. Or some of these people probably just won't even re-sign if we're being honest. So it's a very, very crazy, chaotic situation because WWE purged the indie wrestling market and they brought in so much indie talent, and now WWE has no plans to use them. And of course, that's why we saw so many people released. And I guess I understand why they did it, but I don't think they made the right decision. Now, with that being said, somebody like Frankie Monet, she was supposed to have a championship match, didn't get the championship match. Maybe Frankie Monet is too much of a veteran to be in a developmental brand, and to be honest with you, I think she's way better with John Morrison on the main roster, somebody who desperately needs a change on television. Now, here's the reason why I'm talking about this. Your veterans like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, right? Kyle O'Reilly, like some of these names, Pete Dunne, some of these names probably won't be sticking around in NXT after 2021. And that doesn't mean they're leaving WWE. It just means WWE has plans to truly make this a developmental brand, and it doesn't really make sense for them to keep so many of the veterans. So it's just something to consider that WWE is completely changing. It's a very pivotal point, but I think WWE will actually ultimately succeed here, at least in the short term. In the long term, who knows if they're going to even be owned by the McMahons. So very crazy stuff happening, but it is something to consider. Also, guys, we have one more story. We're going to talk about AEW and Sammy Guevara, Ruby Soho. AEW has massive plans, as you guys know. They continue to talk about signing new characters, signing new wrestlers. Creating a really good wrestling program begins with the youth of the company. Now, we know Fuego del Sol has lost against Miro on Rampage, and we also know that Ruby Soho is going to be competing against Britt Baker for the championship. But the big thing here is AEW really wants to put a ton of effort into their emerging talent. So as they bring in these bigger names, they want the smaller guys to get the rub. Now, it's being said that Sammy Guevara is next in line for a feud with Miro. And honestly, as much as I want Miro to hold that belt for a very long time, this is where we start having a debate on whether or not AEW should start signing more WWE talent and then introducing a weight limit championship belt, like a cruiserweight championship. So here's why I say this. If AEW signs more WWE stars, especially some of these names that are getting brought up, right? Buddy Murphy, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, just as an example, those guys can go compete for the world title. The guys that are a little bit more green, some of these guys that don't have a lot of experience, they can compete for like a cruiserweight championship or a light heavyweight championship, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because AEW does such a great job of, they make the TNT Championship important. They make the tag team championships important. If they had a weight limit, like a weight class based world championship, it gives a lot of these people that are very skillful the opportunity to go for a championship belt. And then as they progress in their career, eventually these WWE guys may not be at the top. These guys could eventually go in and say, hey, maybe they come up with like a Money in the Bank concept. Maybe they follow Impact with the option C, like cashing in their belt and saying, hey, I want the world championship. Some of these WWE guys that have notoriety, putting over the future of AEW is exactly the move I would make if I was Tony Khan. And the good news is Tony Khan is seriously working hard to make sure that the youth of AEW continue to succeed. And as much as I want Miro to hold the belt forever, I think Miro is eventually going to actually put over Sammy Guevara, and that's going to be pretty damn massive. The TNT Championship belt is so great. The Women's Championship is getting better. You don't know if Ruby's going to walk away with the belt, but the fact that Tony Khan is seriously behind this it's coming across on television. The ratings, the merch sales, everything's working in their favor. I can't blame them. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Don't forget, we have a Discord server as well. Click subscribe, ring the bell, get notified, and I will see you guys next time right here on Destination PW. Take care.